Welcome to the Survive, Scale, Soar podcast. Hear and learn through the success of others how to build the life and business you deserve. Learn to overcome failure, what it means to seek out growth, and how to become the best possible version of yourself. And now, here's your host, coach, entrepreneur, husband and father, and author of the #1 best-selling book, Survive, Scale, Soar, Jeremy Williams.
Welcome back. This is Jeremy Williams, and you're tuning in to the Survive, Scale, Soar podcast, the podcast for the entrepreneur, built by entrepreneurs. Today, I'll be joined by Scott Fichter, founder of the No Slack, Just Hustle community and best-selling author of the Weekly Game Plan, the ultimate guide for creating your best year. We talk about sports, overcoming and reframing failure, health and supplements, and more. Before we get started with our guest, a quick reminder: if today's episode moves you, makes you think differently, makes you laugh, or you know it may help someone, be sure to share it. And Scott, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great, Jeremy. How are you?
Oh, doing wonderful. It's a Good Friday, and so I'm going to take some time out today just to relax and spend with family. So looking forward to it. How about you?
Oh, same thing. Celebrate today. Just give thanks and hanging out with my wife and kids. So
awesome. Well, Scott, I met you through Mike's Inner Circle, and a bunch of great guys there that come together and share and help each other out. And also, you're a best-selling author, the Weekly Game Plan, and that's what I want to talk to you about today. But before we get to the book and what that means, tell me a little bit about yourself and your journey.
Yeah, so my journey started probably in high school through athletics, where that was like the foundational piece of me. Everything I did surrounded athletics, and it led me up to this point now, because through that time I had triumphs, but I also had failures. And actually, how we kick off the book, The Weekly Game Plan, is with my last collegiate event, which was an epic failure. And it's crazy how in life things can affect you a lot longer than you think. And it dwelled with me for years until I was finally able to overcome that obstacle and that failure. And then it kind of changed everything in my life as far as perspective, mindset, and just different things like that. So a lot of growth in my journey throughout my experience, from sports, teaching, entrepreneurship, and just everything I'm involved with.
So for those listening today, Scott, you played college ball. You almost became a pro football player, from my understanding.
Yeah, I was this close. I was inches away. I was at the tryouts. I got to go through everything, and actually, the one thing that hindered me is something I couldn't even fix, and it was actually my hand size. My hands were too small as a receiver, and I kind of put a big asterisk next to my name, so it hurt.
I didn't even make it that far, so I was not the most talented athlete. Hard worker, but not a talented athlete. So that's awesome. That's awesome. So what was it that you dealt with in those years? That struggle, that internal mindset. Was it something that made you think that you weren't good enough to do the next thing, or you were just kind of stuck? What was that?
It was the fear of failing again, because I was used to success in sports. I was used to success in school, and just in different things I tried to do. And not to say I was successful all the time, but if I failed, I was able to get out of it. And then that being like, you do sports your whole life, and then your actual last event that you ever do, and you have a chance to go to like nationals, and you fail, not just myself, but I failed the team, and I hate letting people down. And it just, that thought scared me for a very long time of, am I going to let somebody else down again? If I do, how can I recover from that? How am I going to be able to overcome it? How am I going to be able to prove myself? And just a lot of self-doubt was really in my mind throughout that time.
So a lot of self-doubt. And so obviously you dealt with this. You mentioned this, that you dealt with it for a period of time. What was the thing that shifted the mindset to where you maybe looked at failure through a different lens?
I went to an event in Sacramento, California, my wife and I just had some trauma go on family-wise that was pretty burdening as well. And when we went to Sacramento, we went with an open mind of what can we learn here? What can we do to grow here and bring it back? And we ended up meeting another guy who lives, I believe, in Texas. And we sat down at dinner and we just talked, and we kind of took everything from that event and opened up about what is the thing holding us back. And I went deep into it instead of just being like, oh, I screwed up here. I really looked at it more collectively and in depth to find out that really what was holding me back all this time was that one failure. And you wouldn't think it'd be that big of a deal because it's not like I talked about it. It's not like it was a conversation. I don't just go up to people and say, hey, lost my last event, right? But it's there in the back of your mind until you release it. And then finally getting to that point to be able to talk about it with my wife, this other individual who was a good friend, and just to let it out into the world and realize that it's okay. That really is what took me to the next level of leaving it go and starting fresh.
Yeah, it's sometimes the smallest things are the things that we consider the least significant things that cause the greatest roadblocks. So that's awesome that you're able to find that and dive deep. And I think the other challenge is a lot of people, when they're dealing with something like that, is they just want to go and hit it on the surface and attack it from the surface. And it might temporarily fix it, but it's still there. You've got to acknowledge it and deal with it in order to move forward. So when you had that shift in mindset, what led you to your next step? What did you do after you figured this out?
I humbled myself greatly. Growing up, again, being in that success realm, I didn't learn as much as I should have because things came easy. And then with that struggle, I learned, whoa, you need to take a step back. And yeah, you like being a leader, you like helping people, different things like that, but you need to take some time and actually learn and grow because this is a different part of your life. Sports are gone. You're at this point in time, I was, how old was I? I was like 30 years old. It's like you're a 30-year-old man. Sports are done. You're not going to have another tryout. It's over. That is the past. Now it's to your future. And you have to learn differently because it's not like I'm going out to train for a sporting event anymore. I have to train for life. I have to train for my business, my wife and my business that we have. I have to train for being a dad, being a Christian, being a husband. So I really took it as a step back and said, start to grow, start to learn. And that was probably the biggest change because I had to approach it just like sports, right? When I was a kid, starting at 4 or 5 years old, what did we do? We learned, we grew, we listened to our coaches. So it was time to do that for life.
That's awesome. I have some friends that have been at that level. I know a couple of people that have been Olympic gold medalists, and that is definitely, and I'm sure you've seen that with those people that have had high success in their athletic career face these challenges. Is this a common issue?
With the athletes that I talk to, that transition, it's hard because, and I feel it is common because we go through life and, there's a minuscule chance to make it. And we all understand that. But if you have the heart and the belief, you have that thought that you can't, right? And then even if you do make it, there's always an end point. It can't be, unless you're Tom Brady, but yeah. It can't be forever. And to transition, and I think you see this a lot in the world of sports where you see these struggles when the game ends for them, because it's like, this is what I've done, this is what I've known, this is what I've trained for. And I didn't think of what was next because I thought this would always be here. So there is a lot of struggle that, athletes that I've talked to, do face if they didn't prep right.
So before we get into the book, and it's a great book, by the way, share with me what you do. I know you coach and work with athletes and you have these conversations with them. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So what we do is our brand is No Slack, Just Hustle. And we have grown it into an opportunity to work with athletes in regards to their training. Like we do combine training specific for football. This year, we're actually launching our first speed and agility camp. We have, so we work with athletes that way, and that's all ages. Then we're also going to be launching here in June our supplement line to help people from a health and wellness standpoint as well. And that's what we do. We look at people holistically and try to help them mindset, which is the book, health and wellness, which is the supplements, and then the fitness aspect, which is some of the classes that we have, as well as some of the fitness professionals we partner with. So it's just trying to give that holistic approach to health, because it's the one thing that sticks with you forever that can be an advantage or a disadvantage depending on how much you take care of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I truly believe in health equals wealth, and health is not one of the things I'm really good at. It's been a journey for me and something that I'm working on currently. Yet I see it a lot in the industry that I work in. I primarily work with real estate coaches, is that they're always on the go. They're always eating bad. They don't get their sleep in. They're not exercising. And you just see the longevity of their career greatly shorten. And it's sad, because it's kind of like sports, right? They identify with their real estate business and they get to a point where they just can't do it anymore. They don't want to do it. They don't have the energy to do it. So that's awesome you're doing that.
Yeah, that struggle is always there, I feel, no matter what. I mean, like you said, it doesn't have to be in sports. It can be real estate. As I'm a teacher as well, and I've seen teachers getting in that burnout from just everything that we've had to, endure over the past couple of years. So it can be anything, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's all mindset. A lot of it comes down to mindset, and you talk about that in your book. Tell me about your book, the weekly game plan, and it's the ultimate guide for creating your best year.
So with our book that we came up with, I had something else written, and then I was thinking more, and the first book that I actually had kind of penned out a little bit was about me. And I was like, I don't want this to be about me. I want it to be about the reader, you. So I completely scrapped it, revamped it, and went on, I looked through the personal development books I read. I looked through the videos that I've watched on YouTube, many different things. And I was thinking to myself, what can I give to people to serve them, even if I'm not sitting in front of them? So that's how we created the book, to make it a game plan that you can take a journey on every week of the year, plan out your whole year. It covers every single day. And then the next year, you can do it again and again and again, because when we develop game plans for life, it's not just doing it once. It's developing that routine, because your routine takes you to your dream. So you got to be consistent with those things. So every chapter that we did starts with a story, and those stories can be anything. Some of them are from my personal life, and we've changed some names and made it a little different, did a tweak here. Maybe instead of a football player, it was a dancer, things like that. But we made the stories real to people that might encounter them throughout their life. And then we give a message about how to use that story, use the topic that we're discussing, and learn from it. And then after that, the biggest part, and my favorite part of what we did with the book, was the implementation, asking you the question, writing down your goals, and keeping a journal of what you did each day to achieve that goal. And I think that's the most important thing I know that I learned throughout time. Sometimes we're like, oh, I don't want to keep a journal. I don't want people to know I have a journal. But it's so valuable to write things down, because it just makes it more real. And when you read it back, it has more power.
I believe that 100%, and I journal as well. And I love how at the end of each chapter, you kind of there's like an implementation part of it. There's a lot of books out there you'll go and buy, and they're great books, yet there's not those implementation, those action steps. And I really like that about your book.
Yeah, that was huge, because I came to the mindset, and I know you follow the same mindset. Words without action are just words. They're nothing. If I tell you something and don't do it, there's no value. So the value comes from the actual implementation, taking action, doing what you need to do, because the book, and you even hear it in the introduction, it's all about you as the reader. It's not about me. This isn't my journey anymore. This is now your journey. We're just a part of it to help you.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's a great book, and I haven't shared it with my kids yet. I want to. just because I think it's appropriate for them. I've got a 13-year-old and a about to be 16-year-old, about to drive. It's scary. And, those lessons in there are something that I think would be good for them too. So how do people find you? Like they're listening in today and they're like, you know what, this guy, I've connected with him. I wanted to learn more about his book, want to learn more about his brand. How do they find you?
So right now we're focusing on the social media aspect of things. We've got our community group called No Slack, Just Hustle on Facebook. And that group is just something where we're posting and talking with people, trying to give them some insight, some motivation on their journey. We're expanding into our supplement brand, like I mentioned before, and that's going to be called No Slack, Just Hustle Sups.com. And the cool part about that is we've connected some of the things that we do as well. So you have access to the book through that site. You have access to some of the professionals that we work with from fitness and health and wellness, so you can get connected to them, because we just wanted to build a community for everyone where they could go to and just grow in their journey. And then obviously on Instagram, we have our tag is @NoSlackJustHustle. So
awesome. How do they pick up the book? They want to get a copy of your book.
Yeah, so the book, you could message our group in the community at No Slack Just Hustle, and we can get that information over to you, because you can find it on Amazon as well. We have that link on the supplement site once we go live with it, which will be June 1st. So you'll be able to have access to it there as well.
Awesome. Congratulations on that new launch. That's exciting. All right. So before we go, one question is, we've got listeners on here, and most of them are small business owners, or they're wanting to grow a small business. Maybe they're in the corporate world and they're ready to leave and start something new. What is one piece of advice that you could give to a small business owner today?
That's a good question. The piece of advice I'd give is to keep going, keep pushing. If it's something that you want to do, find your why for doing it and go deep with your why. Because we can say, well, I want to do this for freedom. Well, what does that even mean, right? That's a blanket statement, in my opinion. Go 7 levels deep. And I encourage you to talk with someone or do this with someone. I suggest a spouse if you're married, because I think there's a lot of power, because whether you're just the owner of the business or not, you're in it together, because that's how life works when you're married. So go 7 levels deep. So ask the question, well, why do you want freedom? Then answer it. And then ask the question off that. And keep going deep. Find your why and keep that at the forefront, and just keep going. It might take a year, might take a month, it might take 10 years, but if it's a dream and it's something you're truly passionate about, you can succeed. You just have to believe it and put it into the universe.
That's awesome advice. And especially I 100% agree on the spouse part. I run my business. Yeah, my wife is very involved in it. She's also my CPA. So I've got to cook her a nice steak every once in a while. So thank you, Scott, for being on today. Scott Fichter, No Slack, Just Hustle. Also the best-selling author of the Weekly Game Plan. Thank you, Scott, for being here today.
Thanks, Jeremy. I appreciate it. And God bless everybody.
Thank you for listening to the Survive, Scale, Soar podcast. If you heard something that made a difference in your life today, share it with someone that might benefit, and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Learn more about the host of this podcast and coaching services offered by Red Hawk Coaching by visiting www.redhawkcoaching.com.